Jordan Rains here with the IDP 411 podcast. Just want to tell you guys today about our sponsor of the show, expandtheboxscore.com. Expandtheboxscore.com has premium NFL and college football stats. They're adaptable, they're affordable, there's all kinds of great stuff on there from the NFL to college football. It's great for people that are in the Devy leagues looking to get that edge over their league mates. So go check out expandtheboxscore.com, proud sponsor of the show. And now without further ado, on to the IDP 411.
What's up? This is Jared Gray with my co-host Jordan Rains and the Dynasty Chef doing the Dynasty Deep Dive and Q&A. What's up, fellas?
Not much. Just
how you doing?
Ready to rock and roll this morning. Ready to drop some fantasy football IDP knowledge or wisdom or folly, whatever you want to call it, on the people. What about you guys?
Mm-hmm.
I'm good, man. I mean, it's storming here, so hopefully we don't lose power. But
yeah, it was supposed to rain real bad all weekend, but it ended up being real nice here yesterday, which was a blessing. My yard was about 6 inches too high to mow, so I mowed it. Tough mowing session. But yeah, we're gonna go through some kind of like deeper dynasty ads or players that you can get later in drafts, might be able to get cheaply in throw-ins and trades. Because we thought this might be a good time to do that, because in the next couple of weeks we're starting our divisional preview series. I know we kind of alluded to that. Oh, was that a week ago, 2 weeks ago, that was coming? But that is coming, and we're gonna have some fun guests on there. I won't give anything away yet, but in the next week or so, look for the guest list to kind of pop up. There'll be some people you all know for sure on there, and yeah, they're going to break down the divisions with us. But before we get there, like I said, we want to do a quick deep dive show, and then we did have some questions we wanted to answer from the IDP Army and the community. So yeah, I guess we can go ahead and just
good.
Yeah, I guess we can just go ahead and start. I just have a short list of guys. Well, I say short, it's got like 8 or 9 guys on it, but guys that I think are good stashes in Dynasty right now, guys that are cheap. Some of them are super cheap, but some of them are just cheaper than they probably should be, all things considered. So I guess I can just go ahead and start. The first guy that came to the top of my head was Shawn Davis. He's a former free safety for the Steelers. He got picked up by Washington this offseason. They brought in Minka, so they don't really need him anymore. He got picked up by Washington, and I know Monte Nicholson was the guy there last year. He played free safety with Landon Collins. And he had some perfectly fine weeks last year, some serviceable weeks. I know he came up on our Studs show more than once. But to see him get replaced by Shawn Davis, I think that means Shawn Davis could be in line to get a starting position back. And if he's a starting free safety, he's going to be valuable in IDP fantasy football. And right now, he's literally free. Like, I haven't seen him in all my leagues. I don't think he's even rostered. I think I might have him in one of my leagues. But he's a guy that's out there right now that I've got my eye on. I know I'm in leagues that are probably listening to this, so I probably shouldn't say this. But I'm trying to make a way to get him onto my team sooner than later. So there's one of my guys. Jared, you got anybody? I guess we'll just kind of
I'm going to go right up top with you. I know it's one of your favorite guys, and one person that I like personally, who's a second-year guy, and you can call him a Dynasty Deep Dive, is Willis. 71 tackles last year, nothing to sniff at as a rookie. So for me, he's somebody that I'm really looking at, long-term, especially. He's a guy you can get cheap. Most people are grabbing off the waiver wire because they're worried about the second-year slump and stuff like that. So, who knows? With all the talent in front of him, and Darius Leonard, and you got, Justin Houston, you got your boy DeForest Buckner there now. So he could be a good ad. I think that's one of my favorite ads of the group. So.
Yeah, there's a couple, safeties, which is funny because when we get to the question part, we did have a couple of questions about some deeper ads at safeties, and we'll probably circle back around and bring up both of those names again. All right, well, there's 2 for you. I got another guy here, and this was kind of scary, but I might defer to Jared a little bit more, but I have Rashawn Gary as a deep stash kind of guy. The Packers spent, what was it, a top 10 pick on him last year? And this was before the Zadarius Smith breakout and the Preston Smith, before they really had solidified themselves as those two guys that were going to hold that position down the way they did last season. There was a lot of buzz about Rashawn Gary coming out of Michigan, right? He was a fast pass rusher, kind of like Josh Uche this year, just very, very, very quick. That's the one thing I remember. He's a little undersized, right? From what I remember about your IDP 411 last year, but he's still a good.
Not really. He's 6'5", 280.
Oh, damn. Okay. Maybe I'm thinking about somebody else. But he's a guy that is
I'll tell you this. He was the number one recruit in the country coming out of high school. And he just didn't – I guess he just really didn't pan out to what everybody thought it would be. I mean, for me, not for sure. I mean, I expect the number one guy. It's funny because it reminds me a lot of Robert Ndici, who went to Arizona, on his second stint and disappeared, and now isn't even on a team. I don't know. But Rashawn Gary, I don't believe I'm with you. I think that he's uber talented. I mean, he only had 21 tackles last year. He had 2 sacks. I'm interested. Obviously he was in my IDP 411, rookie class last year. I would love to see him make the leap because he's talented. But my question at this point is his work ethic there? So, and that's where I'm worried about him personally. I'm just not sure.
Interesting. Well, I put him on my deep dive list just because I know last year I was pretty excited about him before Smith took over that job. I thought, there isn't really a good pass rush in Green Bay right now, and they obviously saw that because they chose to attack that big time in free agency and in the draft. So he's a guy that I'm looking to maybe definitely have better stats than last year. And, if one of those Smith guys gets hurt, he could be in line for a good bit of work. So we'll see what happens with that. So that was another guy that was a deep dive for me. I don't know where I have him in my dynasty rankings. I might have to look, but I'm sure it's not even in the top 50 probably at DL. But so that tells you he's a pretty deep dive. So who else you got there for us?
So I have a guy that I've seriously debated putting on my rookie list, and I've gotten a ton of questions on. James Lynch was a baller at Baylor, went to the Jets. I have seen him on every single waiver wire because people just expect Quinn Williams to be the guy. And with a guy like James Lynch, who's had that many sacks in college against some really, really good offensive lines, he's got to be somebody I'm looking to add, and it's something that somebody bugged me about yesterday. I'm like, hey, should I do James Lynch or, what should I be doing with this guy? And because AJ Epinesa is the question, is he going to be as good as we expect him to be? And so people are adding James Lynch, and nobody's AJ Epinesa, and nobody's talking about James Lynch. So James Lynch, without a doubt, is a guy you need to add and stash. Again, a deep dive guy. He's a rookie. Not many people even know the guy. The Ginger Warrior from Baylor. So the dude's a monster. So that's for me. That's my deep rookie stash. So that's just somebody that I've been asked about a ton the last 3 days. It's crazy. Like, hey, is this guy going to be on your list? And he's not on my list because of he's just in a deep defensive line spot. So especially with both Williams there. So
nice. I got another name for you guys out there. I got this guy he shouldn't be deep, but he is because he's surrounded by so many other guys. It's easy to just forget he exists, and that's Matt Ioannidis of the Washington Redskins. He led the team in sacks last year. He had 8.5, 64 total tackles, 16 quarterback hits, 11 tackles for loss. And he's got Chase Young there, who we all know about and everybody's high on. He's got Montez Sweat, who I'm very high on and who I think is going to be very successful. Those guys are both first rounders. And then he's got Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen, two other very relevant IDP options that are probably going to be in the middle. And Ryan Kerrigan is there. And it's easy to forget that Matt Ioannidis was the most productive guy on that line last year. And he was playing, that 3-4 defensive end. And we kind of are just, in my head, I've just been putting Payne and Allen in the middle and, putting Sweat and Young on the outside. But I think there's a world where Ioannidis, just seeing how productive he is and seeing the pressure rates that he has. And, he deserves a spot on that line as much as anybody. And I don't think that anything is written in ink yet about how that's going to work out. And I think that he's being undervalued. I'm looking at my own rankings.
I mean,
Dynasty Nerds.
I'm with you.
I've got him too low, and I need to adjust that.
He had 8.5 sacks last year.
I know, and he led the team. I mean, this is a team that had Ryan Kerrigan on it. This is a team that had Montez Sweat on it. It's got Chase Young now. So it's going to be easy to just forget about Matt Ioannidis, but I recommend you don't do that. I think that I have him at 50 right now in my Dynasty rankings behind Quinn and Williams, and I got to fix that. Like, I'm probably going to do that right now while I'm sitting here because that is criminally low. And I, maybe it's partially my fault that he's perceived lower in the community than he should be, but this dude is not just going to go away. And even if it's not on the Washington Redskins, he's going to be fantasy relevant. So Matt Ioannidis is a Dynasty deep dive for me right now. Hopefully we can.
It's funny about you can go right along with Deron Payne. You talk about level of consistency. He had 56 tackles both years, his rookie and his sophomore season. So he had 7 sacks over his first 2 years. Matt Ioannidis had 8.5 last year by himself. So, yeah. I mean, I'm with you 100% on Matt Ioannidis. You know that I had him in a ton of leagues, and we without a doubt talked a ton about him, on Sundays. And everybody's like, "Hey, should we start this guy?" I'm like, "How do you not start him?" I mean,
he just kept coming through.
70-something tackles. He had 64 tackles and 8.5 sacks.
I mean, honestly, I'm worried about Chase Young getting snaps. With Ioannidis. No, I mean, at first season.
Steve, people are here.
No, man, they got to pay that kid. So,
I think
butts and seats, homie.
Maybe the first week he might, they might play around, but they're not going to not play him.
It will depend on how much time he gets to practice.
True, yeah, I guess so.
You don't think it'd be like one of those Josh Allen situations?
Maybe, but
no.
Josh Allen had 650 snaps last year. I mean, that's not bad.
I mean, it's not bad, but it's not like 900 snaps.
No, but there aren't many defensive or edge guys that get 900 snaps.
Yeah. That's a funny thing you bring up Josh Allen. I'm not kidding you. You want to talk about a year 2 guy who, without a doubt, is one of my, if not the breakout guy with Calais Campbell leaving. And when I was telling you I got him as a steal in one of my drafts, I got him like around 18 in a draft.
Josh Allen?
Right, something like that, 18 or 20.
That's pretty, yeah.
And
it's pretty good.
A guy who had top 10 in quarterback hits last year.
Josh Allen's a beast.
How is he not like all over somebody's head right now? I mean, Calais Campbell and him were both top 15 guys, quarterback hurries. And Calais Campbell's not on the team anymore. So,
are you complaining?
Dude, I'm super stoked. But that's the thing is, look how much time they pulled off him and just didn't play him much. So,
yeah, that's all I'm saying with Chase Young. Maybe that's what happens. They pull him back a little bit at first.
We'll see. I don't.
They got a lot of good players on defense there.
No, you're right. They do. Like I said, it's a phenomenal defense, defensive line. But here's the thing: they're paying that kid.
Yeah, Chase Young's going to get money because of his
draft. They're paying him. Are they paying Ioannidis?
He did just get. Okay.
I mean, maybe they could afford to beat him up a little bit and then trade him off.
They got him he got a new contract.
Dude,
I think, last
right
year.
now, Daron Payne gets traded before Matt Ioannidis.
Okay.
See, that's where I think I've been a little bit, not that Daron Payne's not good or anything, but I think that Ioannidis has just proven himself to be so productive for the past few years that it's going to be really hard when it comes, to really deciding who to keep to take Payne over him. Even though Payne's got the capital and the pedigree, Ioannidis has got the resume. So anyway, I don't want to linger too long there. That was just another guy I was going to bring up. Matt Ioannidis. I think he's a little bit of a deep dive. He's probably the last guy on that defensive line you'll be able to draft. And it's funny because he was the most productive one last year. So wanted to bring that up. Jared, you got another one for us?
Well, I'm not going to get into the rookies because obviously I still have 22 guys left to do.
Mm-hmm.
I just did number 23, but I haven't put it out yet. So,
I got a couple more I can rattle off here.
You go ahead.
I got Carl Nassib from the Las Vegas Raiders. I think that he's a deep dive. Obviously the Raiders are not done with that line. One of the first moves they made this offseason was go get Carl Nassib to back up.
But he's cheap.
Yeah, well, he wasn't as cheap as you'd think, but to back up Clelin Ferrell, their first-round pick, and Max Crosby, their future All-Pro. So Carl Nassib got famous from the Browns. I guess it was the one show where he was given the financial advice. So that's kind of where he kind of got noticed. And then the Browns cut him, and then he went to Tampa Bay. And he wasn't bad in Tampa Bay last year. He wasn't great or anything, but they didn't need him to be because they had Shaq Barrett, who was totally killing it last year, who will also have a great year this year. But he just didn't have a bad season. I have him on a couple of deep dynasty rosters. I mean, he had 6 sacks last year. That's not bad. 34 total tackles. That's not bad. I mean, he's a serviceable guy. I mean, he's a guy you can have on your bench, and if something happens, if somebody has a concussion, you can put Carl Nassib on the field, probably. And, we don't know for sure what the Raiders are going to do with him, but I feel like he's going to – they didn't pay him to come there to not play him at least some snaps every game. So if he's healthy, he's a guy that, I think is still shown himself. I mean, through 4 years, he's been on teams in the NFL. He hasn't done a whole lot, but obviously he does something that the coaches like or something that his teammates like that makes him valuable to the team. So he's a guy that I think you can get. I mean, you don't have to pay anything for Carl Nassib, and he could get you 6-7 sacks a season. So could. Not saying you will, could. So I got another 2 or 3 other guys I'll just rattle off kind of quickly. I had Avery Williamson on the New York Jets. People are still extremely high on C.J. Mosley. I've heard a few people with C.J. Mosley in their top 15 linebacker rankings. If you go look at Avery Williamson's and C.J. Mosley's stats throughout their career side by side, yeah, C.J. Mosley does have better stats, but it's not by a lot. I mean, it's, over a 6-7 year period, it's only 70, 80 tackles more. So 10 more tackles a season, only a couple more pass deflections. So Avery Williamson, for a guy that gets talked about at absolute zero right now, is going to return big value. He had an ACL tear last year. Okay, it was before the season even started, so it's a 9-month recovery. So he's fully healed. And think about Deion Jones. How quick were people to throw Deion Jones back into their tier 1, tier 2 linebacker after coming off an ACL tear last year? So Avery Williamson needs to at least be acknowledged as somebody that's going to be useful this season. Deion Jones finished I think 30 last year, linebacker 30 in IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring. I'll check right now. He was linebacker 29. So, I mean, people are still drafting him very highly. He still put up 230 points last year in IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring. If you're telling me that could be in Avery Williamson's wheelhouse, coming off the ACL tear, being on the Jets who run the field a lot, playing next to another really good linebacker, I don't see a world. I see a world where Avery Williamson is obviously going to return positively on where you get to draft him right now, or get him to throw along with trades. So he's another guy that I had on my deep dive list. What do you guys think about Williamson?
Okay, I have another guy who I was high on his 1 year last year at a new team. Is Markus Golden. 72 tackles, 10 sacks. Right, he's somebody that you got to look at. Right, he signed the tender. He's playing on the team. They're not deep at all in New York. So, like, you're like me. I like O'Shane Ximines. So do you. But Markus Golden is there. He's mega cheap. He's got to be somebody you're looking at. And somebody who gives you 10 sacks. I mean, in our system, that's 60 points.
Yeah. In IDP 123 last year, I mean, he was top 8. He finished at number 8. He had 244 points. That's more than Aaron Donald for anybody that's listening out there that cares. So, yeah, Markus Golden is a guy that should be looked at to potentially produce again this year.
That's huge, man. I'm with you. I like the kid. I think he could be. I love when they finally, said, "Hey, we need you here. You need to sign this tender." He had a great year. He had his best year statistic-wise. 2016 he had 12.5 sacks in his second year. Then pretty sure he got injured in 2017. Still coming off an injury in 2018, and then was released and signed by the Giants, and then 72 tackles and 10 sacks is nothing to.
No,
and in some leagues, in sleeper and stuff like that, he's listed as a defensive lineman. So,
LBDL, that's what we like, baby.
LBDL, he's the guy you got to add.
Yep. I got a handful of other guys here that I'm just going to rattle off real quick for the Dynasty Deep Dives. I think Cole Holcomb has a chance to push into the top 30 linebackers this year, or deep into the top 30, maybe even to the top 20. He had over 100 tackles last year. I know one of our boys is super into him. He was just in our top 36. He came in at 36 in IDP 123 scoring. So that's a playable every week linebacker at the end of the day. I mean, that's your linebacker 3. And people, you can get him drafted right now as like linebacker 50. Like, he's just, nobody's paying any attention to Cole Holcomb. So definitely want to make sure that you are aware of him. Get him in a throw along maybe, because he's one of those guys like Fred Warner last year where it's like, yeah, he had 100 tackles. Is he something special? And then it could turn out he is. So get him on your team before the hype hits. Got a couple other fellas here. Marcus Davenport. I don't know. He's gotten a little bit of hype the past couple of years, but the injuries makes me
too much hype.
Too much hype
because of injury.
So I don't know if he's really a deep dive or not. Robert Quinn. Okay, I'm going to use this as an example. I was just in a draft last week with some guys on Twitter, just from around the community, and Khalil Mack was taken in the 10th round of this draft. Khalil Mack, 29 years old, and he hasn't had over 50 tackles in, I don't know, years. He just hasn't had a very good IDP season in the past 3 seasons. So I'm just sitting there and I'm like, well, you know me, I'm a Robert Quinn guy. So I was like, I'm going to get me some Robert Quinn. I drafted Robert Quinn 19 rounds. 19 rounds after Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack is 28 years old. He's 1 year older than Robert Quinn. They're playing the same position. Robert Quinn has had more success more recently than Khalil Mack. And
Robert Quinn's 30.
Is he 30? Okay, he must have just turned 30. Then I think Khalil Mack just turned 29. Because last time I was looking.
He's born in 1990.
All right, well, whatever. 30, 29. I mean, what's the difference? I mean, Khalil
still makes me feel old.
Yeah, I mean, it does definitely make you feel. I'm 30, so I don't feel that old. So I mean, Robert Quinn's probably in 10x better shape than I am, so he probably don't feel too old either. But basically, what I'm saying is Robert Quinn and Khalil Mack. The difference in points is almost nothing. 16 game season extrapolated out, Robert Quinn would have finished. I mean, he finished top 20. He finished 22 this last year in 13 or 14 games, and he was only. How many points behind? He was, let me look at him right here. He was 13 points behind Khalil Mack last year. And I got him 19 rounds after. So I'm just saying is there's a value for you. I mean, he shouldn't be that deep of a stash. He shouldn't be that deep of a dive in Dynasty to go get Robert Quinn, who's only a year and a half or 2 years older than Khalil Mack. But like I said, almost 20 rounds difference. I mean, this guy with Robert, like Khalil Mack was drafted as a top 5 DL in this league. And I got Robert Quinn as like DL 40. Some crazy shit like that. And these guys had a 13-point spread difference last year. So there's a value for y'all. Take that to the bank. I probably already got him if you're in a league with me. But Robert Quinn, I'm a big Robert Quinn fan. I don't understand why people are like, well, he's gonna play linebacker, blah blah blah. I don't want to hear it. Okay, I'm here for the points and I'm here for the value. If you're telling me I can get a guy who's gonna, even if he's a half step behind Khalil Mack, which he won't be, he's gonna outperform Khalil Mack this year. You can get this guy rounds and rounds and rounds later. So there's a deep dive for you that shouldn't be that deep. Robert Quinn, linebacker, DL, whatever you want to call him for the Chicago Bears. So
okay, you know a guy that I've been preaching for years now, and he got injured last year. Danny Trevathan. Where are you feeling on Danny Trevathan? I watched him go undrafted in 4 leagues now.
what?
With Nick Kwiatkowski leaving.
No.
You gotta go pick him up.
Undrafted?
That means he's still available.
He's on the waiver wire right now.
That's wild. I'd be all over that. I mean, I feel
Free.
I mean,
free Danny Trevathan.
$3.99.
Yep.
yeah. I mean, one, he's gonna return positively on a waiver wire pickup investment.
For sure.
So in that aspect of it alone, he's worth owning. The fact that he's probably gonna put up linebacker 2 numbers a lot of weeks and maybe finish on the cusp of a linebacker 1, if he stays healthy, which he was doing last season. I mean, he was step for step.
Last year.
He was the linebacker 1 on that team for the first part of the season until Roquan kind of caught up. So he was pacing the team.
Well, Roquan had to catch him, but Roquan was sitting out because of whatever was going on there.
Yeah, which we still don't know.
Don't even know.
So Danny Trevathan, I love that. That's a great, especially if he's going undrafted. That's a great value right there.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. What's he? He's only 29. He's not dead.
My biggest thing is I have for my main league, I have 5 our max is 5 linebackers. It's a 7-player league. You can start up to 3 linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and to give you an idea, for me, I have Bud Dupree, which is Bud Dupree, Willie Gay, Tremaine Edmonds, Jalen Smith, and Corey Littleton. So I have 3 studs. Bud Dupree's a 300-point guy, last year, and he's gonna play middle linebacker again this year because that's what they're gonna rotate guys. And there's no way I can cut Willie Gay because he's gonna be the starting middle linebacker at Kansas City.
Oh yeah, don't do that. All right, I'm just gonna rattle off these last few guys I got from my Dynasty deep dive. I'm not gonna go too much into it because I know we do have some questions to get to, and I don't want to, linger people around too long. But finished off my list, I had Vita Vea, Tampa Bay. He had a half decent season last year. I think he had about 40 tackles. For a defensive tackle, if you got, even as a DL guy, as your DL 3, 4, 5 coming off your bench, I'm fine with Vita Vea, especially considering the talent along that line. There's going to be, fumbles. There's going to be disruption. There's going to be sacks. There's going to be pressure. So I think he's got a little more upside than we've seen so far. O'Shane Ximines, he's another guy that I have talked about more than once on this show. I think he could also have a big season. Depends on how, you just mentioned a minute ago, Markus Golden. I think he will fare a little bit better if Golden were to go somewhere else. But I think at the end of the day, I think they can both be productive if Ximines gets more snaps. Drue Tranquill, another linebacker from LA. We kind of know Kenneth Murray is going to be the guy. That's how I feel anyway. But there are two other linebackers that get to play there, and I think Drue Tranquill has a very good chance to be the other main linebacker there. We've seen Denzel Perryman get hurt a lot. We've seen Kazir White not be what they wanted him to be. I mean, he was okay when they had to play him, but they didn't go out of their way to play him. So that gives me a little red flag. So I think Drue Tranquill is a nice deep stash, deep dynasty, deep dive kind of guy you can get. Throw him in on a trade to go get an offensive player to bolster your stables. And then I have Whitney Merciless, another guy who's 29, 30. You know, these guys get to be 29, 30 years old. Nobody wants him. But Whitney Merciless, he's finished top 36 linebacker last year. He finished right above Cole Holcomb. You know, he had a couple of big weeks that probably helped him a little bit. But I mean, again, you're not drafting Whitney Merciless as your linebacker 2. You're drafting Whitney Merciless as your linebacker 3, as your linebacker 4. I think he might even have DL eligibility on Sleeper. I have to double check that to be sure, but he's a guy
If
that
he has DL eligibility, you gotta add him.
Yeah, he had 211 points last year in IDP 123. That's not bad. You know, and I mean, he's not dead. You know, just because a guy gets to be 29, 30 years old and he's not an all-pro doesn't mean that he can't be productive. So those are all the guys that I had written down that I thought should be mentioned as Dynasty Deep Dives. Anybody else you guys want to add or any comments about those guys before we move into the some of these questions we got?
Well, just because we have some of the questions, and there's questions about guys that we're going to talk about anyway. That's the only reason I haven't said a few names. So,
yeah. Well, let's just hop into these questions then, shall we?
All right. Sounds good to me. Okay. All right. For our first question from Tyreek Ellis. He says he's got a dilemma. He's in an Dynasty IDP keeper league, and he has to decide on who he's keeping for his DLs, and he has to cut one. He's got Donald, Bosa, and Garrett, and Allen. He says he wants to keep Donald.
he has to cut one?
Yeah. He says he wants to keep Donald because he's got a sentimental attachment to him and because he thinks he's going to have a bounce-back year. So
Can we trade him?
Yeah, see, it says he wants to cut one between Garrett, Bosa, and Allen. He says, what do you think?
I hate to say it, but you got to do Allen. I hate to say that, but I can't get rid of a Bosa, and I can't get rid of Myles Garrett, and I can't get rid of Aaron Donald. And it just simply comes down to the fact that the name brand value. I mean, I think there's a world where Allen is more productive than all of them, but right now, Allen's going to be the easiest to get back on your team. So if you dropped Aaron Donald when you come around to the draft, Aaron Donald's going to go higher than wherever Allen goes. Same with Bosa, same with Garrett.
With that, I agree with you.
So if you're trying to get that whole squad back on your team again, the guy you're going to have to pay the least for is Allen. So that's why I would drop Allen. I hate to say that. I don't want to drop Allen. I know what it's like to have an embarrassment of riches on your D-line. I have a league like that, and it's a good feeling. But if you got to drop somebody, it's Allen for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not happy about it. So
I agree.
Yeah, definitely.
And that sucks because I think Josh Allen is going to have a breakout year. But when, like you talk about, with everybody, but he's a guy, I'm not going to lie to you, you know, when you have your dynasty redraft, you know, he's a guy that I'm targeting in the first 3 rounds probably because he was top 15 in quarterback hits last year, 650 snaps.
Mm-hmm.
You got to go after him. And with Calais Campbell gone, you just got to know that those quarterback hits might double. So we're talking 30 points there, 30 to 50 points.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
But yeah,
you know, and those quarterback hits could very easily be a forced fumble. So there's some more points. So say what?
That's a list of studs, though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It is. That's a massive group. That's
all right. What else you got for us?
Okay, second, third year guys ready to take a jump. Who can be bought low right now?
Okay, I saw. Is this one of the ones that was on Twitter?
Yes, it is.
I got a couple of names here, but I'm just gonna stick with one. I got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, strong safety for the Saints. They also brought in Malcolm Jenkins, and they got rid of Von Bell. So I'm not really sure what's gonna happen there, but I like Gardner-Johnson's chances of getting
I think they liked him too.
Yeah, I like his chances of getting a starting job there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the guy I wrote down. I also had Josh Barnett, or Derek Barnett. Sorry, Josh Barnett. Isn't he like an UFC fighter? Or used to? Anyway, Derek Barnett. People had some high hopes for him last year. I was kind of down on him. Philadelphia pass rusher. I was kind of comparing him to Sam Hubbard a lot last summer. Just being like, if you're high on Barnett, you need to be a lot higher on Hubbard. Hubbard was a lot more productive when you compare their snaps and all this, but nobody really listened to me much last summer. But hopefully they're listening now. And
I think they are.
I think Barnett could potentially be this year a guy that kind of breaks out, even though he didn't last year. And he had a couple of good games last year, but Phil, the Eagles, the whole entire Eagles situation last year was just like not great. So, how about you, Jared?
I personally, Jeffrey Simmons is a big one for me. Once he finally got to play, in his first game, he got a sack. So they obviously eased him in because, he come off of, knee surgery. He's huge. I mean, dude's a monster of a man. He would have been a top 15 draft pick if he didn't get injured working out for the combine. So Jeffrey Simmons is a big add for me in that aspect because I just expect him to have a pretty solid year defensive line. It's a good group there. So
who was that question from, Jared or Steve?
That one was from Jordan Loop at Cantaloupe 40 _44.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah.
And that first one was Tyreek Ellis.
Nice. Yeah, we're gonna try to cite these guys as much as we can. So, I got one here that I know you might have seen too, Steve. But this is from at Boobam 131. I hope I'm saying that right. He said, currently, who is being overvalued / undervalued in the top 36 of your rankings at each position? DL, linebacker, and defensive back. I'll rattle off mine here real quick because I wrote these down because I had to think about this a little bit. So I was like, well, over and under. I could definitely name some guys that were undervalued, but it was kind of hard to find some overvalued guys. So, but for my defensive backs, I think Keanu Neal's being a little bit overrated, overdrafted. I mean, we've seen the song and dance the trend at this point is that he gets hurt. It's not that he's healthy. So if you're going to look at, past data points as things to pull a future projection from, you should project him to not be healthy. You shouldn't be projecting him.
Definitely.
I'm not saying he's going to not be healthy, but I'm saying we have more seasons of him letting you down than him doing anything good for your team. So I think that people who are confidently drafting him in the top 10 at DB if they're going to do it, that's fine. Just I would say do it a little more humbly, a little less confidently, because the last time he was good, half the people you're probably playing with didn't even play IDP fantasy football and don't know who he is. So don't get too high on yourself there. I'm looking for him to be a value. I'm not drafting him to be a guy that's going to be good, or not drafting him confidently personally. So he's probably a little overvalued in my mind, and undervalued for me is the Bengals' new defensive back, Von Bell, who I do have in my top 10 Dynasty. But, listen to these numbers for the past 3 seasons for Von Bell. 4 seasons. Combined tackles, 87, 83, 89, 89. That's consistency. And this guy didn't even start. He's never even started 16 games in a season. The Saints kind of dicked around with him a little bit. The first 3 years he was there, he was kind of coming in and coming out. He played 16, but he didn't start 16. So this guy was out here producing, and listen to these tackle numbers: 61 solo, 62, 63, 66. I mean, this guy's the model of consistency at the defensive back position, and he is kind of overlooked. I mean, if that was an 80, if that was a 97, 93, 99, 99, he would be in everybody's top 4. But just because it's just a hair under, you're getting him a premium defensive player at a discount. So I think he's being a little bit undervalued right now. At defensive line, I'm the same guy said earlier, overdrafted, Khalil Mack. I mean, I just told you I saw him go 10. I got Robert Woods in round like 29. There's your undervalue. So right there, Robert Quinn's undervalued, Khalil Mack overvalued. And then linebackers, this one's probably going to sting some people, and I'm probably going to hear about it. But I think Devin White is just a little bit overvalued right now. If you go back and look at his actual season, well, here's the thing. Hear me out. Okay, so here's where he finished in IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring. I'm going to pull it up. He finished 25, all right? But the thing you forget about Devin White and with the IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring is he had a bunch of points, like a boatload of points, come on his 121 fumble recovery yards. All right. So there's 12 points right there. And his 2 fumble recovery touchdowns, there's another 10 points. So there's 25 points right there that, I mean, fumble recoveries for touchdowns are pretty fluky plays. So let's just say you just cut those out. Those 25 points right there. Devin White is linebacker 3. He's not a linebacker 2 anymore. All right. So let's look at the guy right next to him. Literally finished one spot ahead of him last year. My undervalued linebacker is Rashaan Evans. Rashaan Evans had 239 points last year compared to Devin White's 238. But his all came through kind of more predictable means. His tackles for loss, his pass deflections, whatever you have it. Whereas a good chunk of the points that came from Devin White came from some of these fluky monster plays. Not saying Devin White is not going to be great next year. I'm just saying for guys that finish back-to-back, Rashaan Evans is being drafted full 10, 11, 12 rounds later than Devin White right now. And that's a travesty. So there's my over-under on defensive or on linebackers. There's my whole squad. If you guys hate it, attack me on Twitter. I love being attacked. If you love it, let me know. I love being praised. So, what about you? Who you got?
For me, my biggest high-low guy, like I said, I watched Josh Allen get taken mega late in drafts, and Calais Campbell's gone. How is he not a top 10, and he's a top 10 quarterback hit guy, but he's not being bought. So he's my number one. He's low, but he should be a lot higher. But like number one, hands down. And I'm not saying that because I try to own him in almost every league, but with Calais Campbell gone, he's already a top 15 quarterback hit guy. I want all of Josh Allen, and I've said that from the beginning. This is going to sting. Safety that's being bought high and shouldn't be. I have a problem with players who throw their body out and have had crazy injuries. Jabril Peppers, for me.
And high, huh? Look at this.
I get it. I love him. Don't get me wrong. I get it. But it's a neck injury, guys. I'm sorry. Right? We're talking about Leighton Vander Esch coming out of college, had a neck injury. Oh, it's no big issue, this and that. Where's Leighton Vander Esch on everybody's board now? Is he a linebacker 1?
No.
If he was a linebacker 1 last year.
He's creeping back up in that linebacker 2 area, though, in drafts.
Yeah, but people are still scared.
The fact of the matter is, Leighton Vander Esch was expected to be the guy last year.
Oh, yeah.
He had a neck injury, ended up having surgery, and nobody's really talking about him. And I love Leighton Vander Esch. I mean, love him. I think he is one of the best tacklers in football. But a neck injury for a safety for somebody who throws his body out that much worries me. Okay, so Jabril Peppers is being bought as the top 5 safety for a lot of people. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm off him a little bit. And thing is so many people are on him. You might get high draft value for him. You might get high trade value for him.
You're right.
It's just not where I'm at with him.
So you're
and I get it.
Peppers,
I get it. All right. So defensive line wise, a guy that we all love and nobody talks about, and he's not even drafted half the time. Well, I wouldn't say not half the time, but I'm watching him getting drafted mega late in dynasty drafts. That is Sam Hubbard. And Jordan brought him up 2 weeks ago in a different conversation. Sam Hubbard.
We talk about him a lot.
Blew up last year.
Mm-hmm.
And we all saw it coming. We all said, hey, watch out. This is going to be our guy. And he ended up having those years. People are completely missing on him. What did Cincinnati do on defensive line that made you change your mind about him? Right? Jordan, I want your honest opinion. Like, where do you feel Sam Hubbard should be?
Let me look
at my in IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring.
I have Sam Hubbard in my dynasty rankings at DL 13. He finished last year at DL 11.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I'm not down on him by any means necessarily. I think he can still take a step forward with his sacks. He only had 8.5 this last year. But I did hear our Steve brought up, that apparently the Bengals are changing to a 3-4. So it's going to be a little different setup than it was last year. But I'm not low on Sam Hubbard by any means. I have moved him in a couple of leagues because I think his value right now is pretty good, especially with the tackles. If you're in a league,
those tackle numbers were so high.
Yeah, if you're in a league with people who are obsessed with tackles, and you have Sam Hubbard, he is a prime mover. So I don't know that he's ever going to hit that number again.
I know, that's a lot.
That's an elite DE number to hit at tackles, and if he's moving to a linebacker, he's going to have a little bit less opportunity to do that. So, or an outside linebacker, shall I say? But yeah, I mean, I think maybe he's a little bit lower than he should be. I'm in a league right now that's scored in a way that Sam Hubbard was like the number 1 defensive end in, just because of the way these guys have it set up to weigh tackles. So, I mean, he probably
could end up with more sacks this year, though.
I think he could. I mean, they still have Geno Atkins. They added DJ Reader right to the inside of that line, so there should be more pressure. It should be a little easier for him to get there. I could see him having he had 8.5 this year. He had 7 the year before, right? So, I mean, I think he could push for 10 this year. I mean, in the right circumstances. So I could see him as a little bit of value, a little undervalued compared to what he's done. And the thing people forget too is like, he's still pretty young. I mean, it's not like he's going anywhere. Like, he's going to be around for a while. So yeah, he's probably a little undervalued.
Definitely one of our favorite subjects on this show.
Yeah, we talk about him so much. He needs to just come on and tell us what's up.
That'd be awesome.
Yep. Let's see. I have another question here. I know this one, you probably saw it too yesterday, guys. It was on Twitter. It's from @82crew. It says, deep sleepers in the secondary due to position change. And then he references Jalen Mills, because apparently Jalen Mills is no longer playing defensive back. He's playing safety. I'm going to be honest, that is pretty much like the only kind of one of those situations I'm kind of aware of right now. Position changes, but I mean, the Eagles secondary was a shit show last year. If you had any part of it, I mean, it was dudes getting hurt. It was dudes getting bad. It was dudes getting burned. It was not pretty on any level. So, I mean, maybe Jalen Mills is more productive at this position. I mean, he definitely should have a chance to be. But they brought in Will Parks, too. They drafted a safety. So, I don't know what this really does to Jalen Mills' value. And there aren't really any other defensive backs currently that I'm aware of that are kind of changing positions that I think could positively affect them. We haven't even had practice or anything yet, so we don't really know what the coaches are thinking about scheming up with the guys they've acquired and with their rookies. So I can't really comment on anything on that question, unfortunately, more than I just did.
Well, like you said, they brought in Will Parks, who honestly I really like Will Parks, and when he got his opportunity, he played really well. I honestly think Jalen Mills, as much as I like him, I think he gonna be on a hot seat once those two get together and have to play each other, because Will Parks is no slouch of an athlete. So, and I think he finally figured out the safety position. So, watch out, Jalen Mills. That's how I feel about it. I think Will Parks could take that job, if not, at least push him as much as possible.
Yeah. Eagles secondary is just something that is, I mean, it's kind of like a train wreck. I mean, there's stuff happening, and I mean, you're going to watch it because it's the Eagles, and they're going to get blown up on primetime, probably more than they should. But it ain't going to be pretty, and you probably ain't going to like it. So that's kind of how I feel. I know they had Slay. Maybe they're better. Maybe that helps boost the whole squad up, but we'll just have to see. And like I said, I don't know anybody else that's moving positions, so I can't really say anything else about that question. What else we got, Steve?
Let's see. 30-team Dynasty IDP auction draft, starting roster of 8 offensive and 10 defensive players with $1,000 budget. How much would you budget for offensive players and defensive players? That's from at OB1 Jacoby.
What do you think, Steve?
I love that dude's name, Obi-Wan Jacoby.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, just I just want to put that out there. I love it, Obi-Wan Jacoby.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. I don't do a ton of auction drafts.
I've got a couple,
just because
all offensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you overvalue certain players, and I know that we've looked at the scoring on that, but to see 2.5 sacks or 2.5 points per tackle on a defensive line, I definitely value big players like Danielle Hunter, Joey Bosa, stuff like that. I'm going to spend a little more money on my defensive line guys than I would linebackers in that league, because I know he was talking 2.5 points per tackle on those guys and 1.5 points for tackles for linebackers, because it's separate for each org.
Yeah.
So defensive linemen, I'm definitely paying a little more money on. Like you said, like Danielle Hunter, Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, TJ Watt, if he's a defensive end line, eligible in that league. That's what I'm looking at. I'm overspending for me on the line side of it, because the points are a point higher in tackles. If I can get
it's not just that
many tackles out of a guy. Yeah.
I think it's a positional scarcity too.
Yeah.
It's harder to get.
30-team, $1,000 budget. I mean, your team is 8 offense, 10 defense. So you do start more defensive players than offensive players. So technically, that's where the meat of your team is.
Exactly.
I don't want to say spend the meat of your money on that side of the ball, because it's a little deeper. But I'm with Jared. Honestly, I've only been in a couple of auctions, and you just have to kind of see how things go. You can't really go in saying I'm going to pay this or that for a player. You have to decide you have to see who you get right out the gates with your first couple of bids, and you got to kind of allocate what's left, and then that kind of helps you figure out what you're going to do. Honestly, I can't really say much more than that, than just make sure that you try to build a balanced team, and don't neglect your defense, because you have 2 more chances to win your week on your defensive side of the ball than your offense. So I would say definitely don't go cheap on your defense unless you can, but don't be afraid to make sure that you have a solid defensive lineup. I'm actually in a league kind of like this is described as the big league. Shout out big league if anybody's listening. But in that league, we start like 12 or 13 or 14. Let me see. I'm trying to think. 8. It's like 12 or 13 defensive players, and it's only 8 offensive players. So I've gone out of my way to build that team kind of with all my hitters on defense. And I'm interested to see if the strategy works out, because my offense is I got a couple of big names, and then it's like, Mecole Hardman and John Ross and Marlon Mack. So it's like, let's see if my defense can carry this offense on this team. And I'm kind of excited to see if I can pull it off, because a lot of people go offense first and then they go defense. And in this league, I decided to focus, on my defense because I had more chances to win on my defense. So that's all I can really tell you, man. Obi-Wan Kenobi, or I forget what the name was, but just
Obi-Wan Jacoby.
Obi-Wan Jacoby. Let the draft come to you, bro, and just don't be afraid to get, the defensive guys that you think are going to help you win. So that's kind of all I got on that front.
I just had a question from Brandon, a buddy of ours. BSJ Villain, I think, is Twitter handle. What is Ed Oliver's value now? He was arrested. What is his trade value?
I mean, I think it's pretty much the same. It's only 2-game difference, or 2 or 3 game difference, and that's this season. I mean, you think over the length of his whole career in Dynasty, I mean, guys are going to miss games. There's only a very small handful of players in the NFL that do not miss games or have not missed games. And, things happen. I think that Ed Oliver's upside and ability and all that stuff is all the same. You're just going to have 2 less games of it this year. So
yeah, I think it affects his trade value too much, especially because, honestly, I get he got a DWI. He had a possession charge because, and we talked about this a couple shows ago, once, where you're at, if you get a DWI, whether you own the gun or not, because you got a DWI, you get a possession charge of the weapon. So if it's in the vehicle, he owns the weapon, it's registered and everything. But that's why I think this gets thrown out. It's no big deal. I don't think he misses anything, to be honest with you.
You gotta miss something.
I don't think it affects the trade value at all for me.
He'll miss some time, but yeah, it doesn't affect how I view him at all. I'm with you. It doesn't affect how I view him in trades. Honestly, if you got a guy that's scared, you're gonna miss time, he's gonna be a troublemaker, blah blah blah, I would light that fire, throw gas on that fire, and then I would go in and I would take Ed Oliver off of his hands. It doesn't sound like he appreciates him the way he should. So
yeah, if you don't appreciate a guy, then take it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So,
and if he's already on that smoke. Then just add more fire to it. Okay, we had 2 questions on YouTube or on Twitter from not Twitter. Gosh, I'm losing my mind. From Facebook, the Facebook Fantasy Football IDP group on Facebook. If you guys aren't on there, that's a good little spot for the community to hang out. A lot of good interactions. This one comes in from Jonathan Williams. It says, who has a higher ceiling out of Bradley Chubb, Nick Kwiatkowski, and Micah Kiser? Scoring format, and I'm not going to go into scoring format. It's basically IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring, a small variation. Tackles are 1.5 per, and assists are half, and everything else look pretty close to what IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring is. So that's kind of in our wheelhouse. And I'm just going to say it for me. It's Bradley Chubb. We haven't seen anywhere close to what Bradley Chubb's ceiling is, in my opinion. And as a rookie, I mean, he had a solid season. What do you have? 8, 9 sacks. I think he had 50, 60 tackles. So to see that from a guy in his first year, they started out slow last year on the Broncos. They didn't do much, and they got hurt. But I think his upside is sky high. I mean, I think he's got TJ Watt kind of numbers in him. He could have 14, 15 sacks.
He had 12 sacks.
Did he?
Rookie season.
Woo-wee! Yeah. So, yeah. So Bradley Chubb of those 3, to me, easily. And Micah Kiser, I mean, all that guy is upside right now. I mean, you can't go nowhere but up from 0, right? So that's
like I said, I love Nick Kwiatkowski's position that he's at. Going to the Raiders, get an opportunity. He's gonna play. When he played with the Bears, he balled out. So Kwiatkowski is definitely a good ad. Now, you're playing next to Corey Littleton, who's gonna hog everything. So that I can understand that one. I'm with you. I love Bradley Chubb. I mean, if I can get his rookie numbers, I'm taking him all day. 60, 12, right? that's a ton of points overall.
Yeah.
Especially if he's D-line eligible, then there's not even a question here.
Yeah.
His upside is massive. I'm with you on Micah Kaiser. I'm not sold on Micah Kaiser at all.
No, and anybody
that's the biggest thing for me. I'm not
anybody that is sold on Micah Kaiser needs to get their head examined because he ain't even out here selling himself. So what are you buying? That's my thought process. All right, there was another one came in from the Facebook group. Eric Inigo. I hope I said your name right, man. Says, who is your deep DB values with upside? I'm new to IDP. I'll just start. I'm going to take a little bit different situation here than usual. I went with a cornerback here just because we never do corners, and I thought it was interesting. Marshawn Lattimore, I think, is worthy of being rostered this year if you have start 2, 3, 4 defensive backs. Look at the division he's in. He's got the Falcons. They're going to throw. He's got the Bucks. They're going to throw. And he's going to face the Panthers twice a year. They're going to throw. So there's 6 games right there where these quarterbacks are going to be airing it out. And, they like their number 1 targets, and their number 2 targets are good. So Marshawn Lattimore should have plenty of opportunities to make tackles at the point of the catch. He also had, 7 interceptions as a rookie? He hasn't hit that number again or come close recently, but in a division where people are going to be throwing a lot, and the fact that their defensive line is hopefully, with Marcus Davenport, going to be healthy and disruptive, there's going to be opportunities for turnovers there. I think he had 57, 58 tackles this last year. I think he could push into the 65 tackle area, and he could put up 2, 3, 4 interceptions maybe. I mean, this is all kind of speculation. I haven't projected these guys out yet on that division, but I could see that in his wheelhouse. And if that's the case, he's a good, cheap DB3 and a guy that basically goes undrafted in a lot of places because even people that are taking corners are taking Jalen Ramsey, are taking Patrick Peterson. They're taking Logan Ryan, Tredavis White. There are other corners that people are taking right now. We forget Marshawn Lattimore's crazy rookie year because it's been 3-4 years ago now. So he's a good value to me if you're going to go looking for that 3rd, 4th defensive back and you're willing to dip into that corner market.
Kyle Fuller
is another one for you.
3 years in a row, 200 points or better in 1, 2, 3 scoring.
Woo! There you go. There's some consistency for you.
What about Joe Hayden?
Joe Hayden.
You were just the one talking earlier about not liking old guys. I think he's 31 this year. He's still a beast, though. I'm with you.
Ever since he went to Pittsburgh, man, he's redid himself.
Yeah.
He had a lot of picks last year, though, and he just kind of came out of nowhere. I'm with you on Kyle Fuller. What about Kevin King, though? He's young.
Yep, he had a 200 year last year.
Yeah.
260-point year, in 3 leagues I'm in. He's 258 in 1 league and 265 in another. So Kevin King is definitely somebody as a cornerback that I'm looking at, without a doubt. It's weird how people are low on Harrison Smith. Do we realize Harrison Smith is in his 3rd year? 3rd. Right? He averages over 80 tackles a season. 3 interceptions a year, both years. Harrison Smith is a stud, and he's always around the football. I don't even know how many phone work coverage. Steve, you're going to check for me. But Harrison Smith is a guy that, for some reason, people don't think about him. Maybe because he's white. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I mean, yeah, you got your guys. But Harrison Smith finishes as a top 4 safety last year, and people aren't really talking about it.
Yeah,
there's a pretty big drop-off. What about Justin Simmons? He's been a top 5 safety 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
You gotta look at him, right? People are real high on Tracy Walker. Tracy Walker went out with 2 knee injuries last year, 2, right? So give me Jordan Poyer, Harrison Smith.
Smith had
Landon
2
Collins.
fumble recoveries last year and the year before that.
Nice.
So he's averaging 2 a year. So With 3 interceptions a year, with 80-something tackles a year, right? Antoine Bethay's not going to be on this list. He's still a free agent, right? Which is why Xavier McKinney's climbing boards. I love Taylor Rapp. I love Kevin Beard. Who else we got here? Terrell Edmonds. I'm loving, dude. We talk about Pittsburgh's, right, overall. You have Joe Hayden, you have Terrell Edmonds, you have Minkah Fitzpatrick. Right? That's 3 solid guys in your defensive backfield. That's something you got to look at. And I don't know. Like you said, cornerbacks, right? You're not going to get a Logan Ryan year out of people, right?
Yeah,
that was ridiculous. I mean,
that was lucky.
380 points out of the quarterback.
A blessing.
Ridiculous, bro.
Loved it.
I mean, he was
more than one league.
120 points on everybody.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta buy in early. I remember it was like week 2, and he was already doing his thing, and I was like, I don't like corners. I was like, well, I'll put Logan Ryan on my team, and then I just never pulled him out of my starting lineup again, and it was great.
It was awesome.
Really recommend it to anyone. So, all right, guys, I don't think there's any more questions. We've gone over an hour. I think we're ready to call it a day. Finito. Any last comments from anybody before we give it to Jared for the handoff? No on Steve. I'm pretty good. I hope we answered all your guys' questions. I feel like we kind of hustled through it today, but I feel like we did cover a lot of names, a lot of guys that you should be watching for, guys maybe you should be, moving down your list, up your list, all that good stuff. So, yeah, we got, like I said, this is the last of our shows before we go into our series over the divisions. We might do a couple of bonus shows here and there, just depending on how things go, because things are starting to heat up. Yeah, and we'll let you guys know who our guests are going to be soon. Just, follow us all on Twitter at 50 Shades of Drunk, at the Dynasty Chef, at Jared Gray. Follow the at IDP Army account as well. Follow us on Instagram, blah, blah, blah. You know all that good stuff. You know where to find us. We've been seeing those shirts. They're looking good out there. They're looking fresh. I've been getting pictures come through in my Sleeper app. Guys in my leagues are wearing them. Guys on Twitter are wearing them. I'm pretty proud of that. Good job on that, Jared. And, yeah, that's all for me. So I'm going to hand it off to Jared, let him do his thing.
Guys, as always, we appreciate you. And until next time, let's go, let's go, let's go.